This just feels exceptionally stupid. What's going on, YouTube? So today we have a massive Premier League story. Everton have been deducted 10 points, and that is not all. They face a compensation bill. Now, the immediate thing that I want to come out and do is say this is absolutely ludicrous. Without the other people have been punished. We have Manchester City who breached potentially this exact same thing 114 other times. So what's going to happen to them? But let's quickly go through the story, obviously, because there's so much to unpack here. And I think that's the best starting point is what has been released today. So as of today, Everton have been docked 10 points. Now, this doesn't pop up on my Premier League table, so we'll see when it actually does. And they don't quite clarify if, as Everton have already stated, that they're going to appeal. Does the appeal prevent the points from going off? Or how exactly does that work? Unfortunately, we don't really get a full explanation as to that. But also, each club has 28 days to pursue a claim against Everton, who find themselves second from bottom, 2 points from safety after the deduction. Any compensation award will be determined by the Premier League Commission. So basically, anyone that got screwed over by Everton finishing above them is able to request payment, money, etc. So here's actually where they are now. Unfortunately, it doesn't show us the table as to where the clubs were, how close Everton was to the deduction, and where they were when all of this happened initially. And what I find mind-boggling, so this was over £19.5 million. And when you look at what has been alleged that Manchester City has done, it boggles my mind. And I can only imagine what the penalty is going to be for them. So these clubs are allowed to sue them essentially for a loss, and the Premier League Commission will award differing amounts based on how much they feel that they're awarded. My question is going to be, what's going to happen? So if this is just one £19 million penalty time, where they overdrew their accounts and they cooperated, mind you, Everton cooperated, and that's a big deal in my opinion, because what Everton could have done from the front is refused to turn over information, gone everything through their lawyers, taken the Manchester City route, dragged this on for years, and they might have had a more favorable outcome, but they decided to cooperate. Now, maybe there's a little bit of cyclical part of my brain that says maybe they knew that this Premier League season was the best one to get the point deduction because there's so many teams that are really struggling at the bottom of the league right now, but that seems a little bit too insightful to know kind of on the front end. But essentially, they're getting one of the harshest penalties for £19.5 million over that any club has seen for that amount of money. Obviously, accounting for inflation, where £19.5 million means different amounts, back, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, where it's been a little bit different. And you can see the article at the top here does go into Manchester City's charges. We are actually going to go over those here at the end of the video because I think it's wholly fascinating to kind of compare the two. And also the people who say Manchester City are definitely innocent, I think there's some pieces of information we should look at. But so you can see here too that there's also Chelsea were under investigation. And actually it goes into some more detail to here as to the mitigating circumstances that Everton believe that they had. They believe that they had an informal agreement with the Premier League based on a lot of the mitigating circumstances, including the Russian invasion, how that affected some of their loans. And I don't know what the Everton's intention was. And I'm a Liverpool fan. I should hate Everton. Granted, I dislike Manchester City, but my last video was about how Erling Haaland should have won the Ballon d'Or. So I'm a huge proponent of fairness. And it's one of those situations where if this is how one of these charges is found guilty on, imagine how 115 are found guilty on. And mind you, too, this is one club that has cooperated. Potentially, you're going to have 115 charges and they're found guilty on all of them, and they hid evidence, withheld evidence, refused the whole time, argued the whole time. How are they going to be treated differently? What are they going to get, like a 2,000 point ban? Are they going to be, they'll be the worst side in Premier League history? And is it also going to come down this year? Because I think that's the frustration for many fans right now. And just for funsies, here's a list of every Premier League rule that Manchester City have alleged to have been broken. Now, a bit about my background here. Work for Child Protective Services. I've worked in the criminal justice system for a long, long time, almost 5 years now. And I'm not going to tell you that every time charges are pressed that somebody's going to be found guilty. However, I will just note to you that one, the criminal justice system has differing standards than even the systems used by the Premier League, the British governing systems. And realistically, if they have enough to charge you, they've got something, I'm not saying that they have enough to prove the standard that they have, whether it's a reasonable doubt, beyond a reasonable doubt, clear and convincing, a preponderance of the evidence. There's a lot of different standards that, they might have to overcome. Don't necessarily know what the Premier League is going to do, but I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that for every single one of these charges, they have some supporting documents. And you can see here that it's a ludicrous amount of time period. And I also wanted to point out too, and I think it's just a fun thought experiment, pointing out the Manchester City starting 11 when Pep Guardiola took over. Because people will say, but how does this affect the Premier League today? And let me show you how it does. And this is allegedly, they're going to the way back time here, this is his first starting 11. Now, I'm not saying that this is the greatest starting 11 to ever exist. However, you can see that he had a lot of pieces that he needed to build upon the first day that he was there. And then allegedly, for many years, he was able to buy players in excess. And the unfortunate reality is if Manchester City are found guilty on these charges, I believe that it is going to wholly taint everything that Pep Guardiola has ever done. It's a bit like you and your friend are playing a game together, and he beats you, and you find out he's been cheating the whole time, and it's like, well, you never really beat me. This is a team that just won a treble, but if it's on the back of finding out that they cheated 115 times and they're found guilty of doing so, they would have never been able to put together this type of squad with the funds that they were able to do. And they should be punished for doing so, unfortunately. And that's just the world that we live in. And I think that the calls for that happening are going to get even louder, especially when we see what's happened to Everton. And I just want to remind everybody that Manchester City was found guilty by the Champions League, but the remedy that they intended to use was too harsh and was overturned by the arbitration of sports. Now, some of the charges they found, or the arbitrator said that were time barred, or, the Champions League was utilizing a punishment that was too hefty, so they did actually still able to play those 2 seasons, but they did get a fine that they paid, which is a level of guilt. If I get a speeding ticket and I pay the speeding ticket, I'm guilty of speeding. I'm just throwing it out there because people will say, well, they're definitely innocent. I don't believe for a second that Manchester City is innocent. Now, do I think that Everton is innocent? No. Do I think that Everton actually took steps to cooperate, whereas Manchester City have just gone through their lawyers? Yes. And the sad thing is that Manchester City has now shown that that is the route that you should take. You should not cooperate. You should not work with the Premier League. You should lie. You should hide everything through your lawyers. You should delete evidence. You should not turn it over, because that's also what they were found guilty of. The arbitrator of sport said that Manchester City is guilty of not turning over information and cooperating. So they've already admitted to being guilty and been found guilty. Even in that stage where they were able to successfully still play in the Champions League, they were still guilty. And this is why, again, this matters, because they were able to cheat 115 times at around the same point where Klopp was appointed, Guardiola was appointed. This was Klopp's starting side, and he has had to slowly build upon those pieces for a squad. The reason, as a Liverpool fan, I believe that they were able to win the Champions League and able to win the Premier League is by slowly getting 1 or 2 amazing players a season and slowly being able to kind of recycle that squad. Manchester City would not have been able to do that without cheating. If you were to go back and look at the teams that was being fielded by whatever team you support and the team that you have now, and looking to see how much your manager has overcome, but overcome slowly, you're going to start to go, well, no wonder they're winning all these things, so much faster. They've been able to put all this cash in. They've been able to cheat years beforehand, making sure that they've always had a good squad, and they've been able to lie about brand deals, they've been able to lie about wages, and therefore they've been able to boost their squad to levels that are just absolutely ludicrous, which did not line up with how much money they were making, because that's the big kind of scandalous point, is Manchester City were not making very much money because they did not have that many fans. So, back in the early 2000s and 2010s, how many Manchester City supporters did you know? They had to, it took time for them to buy all those paid actors to sit in the stadium. If you remember when they won their Premier League back in 2010, around that time period, really wasn't even people sitting in the stadium. And here is everything that they won during the period of the financial breaches. What's going to be interesting too is obviously if you cheat, you get a little bit of a boost, every season afterwards, because you've got a squad together. Imagine you're playing your FIFA 24, EAFC 24, if you will, and you spawn in with £1 billion, and let's say you and your friend are taking over the same squad and just seeing how much you can accomplish and you can build a squad over. you're going to look at his squad and go, how the hell did you build that? And he goes, oh, well, I spawned in a bunch of cash. And then every season afterwards, he's still going to have the remaining, squad players he's going to be able to sell. He's going to be able to buy more of. He's going to have more cash flow because of that, because he was able to build his squad out so much. That's where I think that this has become such an overshadowed conversation in the Premier League is we've just come to accept that Manchester City are the best, and not a whole lot of topic has been brought about these 115 charges. I think because people are waiting to see what happens. And unfortunately, I think the situation with Everton is now really going to put Manchester City under the microscope, rightfully so, because if you're a Manchester City fan, I would want this to all be done. I would want this to be over with, because everything that you accomplish from now on could be looked at with scrutiny unless you're found guilty. And if you are found guilty, I don't know what the Premier League is going to do in that situation. Are they going to give all of these titles to second place? Are they going to allow everyone to sue? Does that completely destroy Guardiola's and Manchester City's legacy as a whole? I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are in the comments below. So drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think, and I will catch you guys later. Bye, guys.
You better remember to like and subscribe to Jake Clips. Or you should. I might have to pluck your eyes if you don't. Or, better yet, I'll skip rope with your entrails. Do it now. Subscribe. Ta-ta. Off with you.
Post-outro Jake here. Just want to thank you guys for sticking around on the new channel. Working on a bit of a rebrand. The other channel is obviously more Elder Scrolls related. But I'm really passionate about soccer as an American fan who grew up in England for a period of time and became a Liverpool fan and a Norwich City fan. I almost feel like those need dedicated videos as to how that happened. But if there's sporting conversations, conversations around the Premier League, Champions League that you guys think would be interesting for me to cover, more than willing to do so. As a Liverpool fan, I saw the deduction this morning and I went, this is ludicrous. I need to put my thoughts into a video and put this bad boy online, because I am just so many opinions and thoughts that I want to share. So thank you guys for sticking around, and I'll catch you later. Bye, guys.